At some point, you may have a need for the video to loop, meaning when it finishes, it goes back to the beginning and plays again. I can only think of one specific use case for this, and that's when you're using video as a type of design animation to add to the ambiance of the page, like cloud scrolling in the background. Be careful with that though, because a lot of times an element like that can actually be distracting for the user and take away from the experience rather than adding to it. With that in mind though, let's add looping to our video. Going over to our code, we're now in the 2-05 folder if you're following along with the exercise files. We have our video tag with the controls attribute, all our sources, preload attribute set to auto, and an autoplay attribute so the video starts playing automatically. And what we need to do to add looping is add the loop attribute. It's another Boolean attribute, so it's either true or false. It's true if we include it and false if we don't. And I'll save that. And then there's one more thing. I've added a clouds movie, just like we were talking about using a clouds movie in the background, just to kind of give us a better idea of what that would look like. So I'm just changing the podcast movie to clouds. And I'll save that, and then we can go over. I'm going to preview this in Chrome, reload it, and we can see the video is playing. It's playing our clouds video, and hopefully when it gets to the end, it will just go right back to the beginning. Okay, great. So looped as expected. Now, one unfortunate thing with loop, and the reason I'm using Chrome for this one, is that Firefox does not yet support it, while all other HTML5 browsers do. So let's go and look at Firefox. If we reload the same page, and I'll jump to the end, you can see it just stops. So it doesn't go back to the beginning like we would expect it to do with loop. So up to the first release of Firefox version 4, it doesn't support loop. I have been told that they will support it eventually, but it will take more work for them than it might seem because of the need for the smooth transition from the last frame back to the first. So we don't know exactly when that will be, but they haven't at least decided not to support it at all. So to get around this limitation, I'm going to dive into JavaScript and show you a quick way to manually loop the video with JavaScript. I'll spend a little bit more time digging into JavaScript in later movies, so if any of this is really above your level, you might want to skip ahead to those and come back to this later. But really, this shouldn't be too difficult to just copy and paste either way. So let's go back to the code. And the first thing we're going to do is actually remove our loop attribute because we're going to loop it manually and we don't want any kind of unexpected behavior from browsers that do support the loop attribute. And then next we're going to add an ID to our video tag so we can reference it in JavaScript. I'm going to give it an ID of my video. Okay, now we're going to add our JavaScript just below the video tag. And we use the script tag to add JavaScript, and we don't need the type equals text JavaScript in HTML5, which is nice. All right, and then to reference our video tag, I'm going to use jQuery. jQuery is a JavaScript library that we're including in the page, and so if you want to do this as well, you'll want to make sure that you're including jQuery. And it's including all the Explorer California assets, so if you've been following along with the other tutorials, it should work there as well. And so with jQuery, we can reference the file like this, my video, so that will reference our video tag. And then we're going to bind. Bind is the method where we can bind to an event. So we're binding to the ended event. So basically the video element has an ended event that fires every time that the video ends. And so we want to bind a function to that event. And then we can pass a function to the bind to tell it what we want it to do when the end event happens. We're now kind of in this scope of the video element, so we can use the this variable to reference our video. This represents the video element, and then the video element has a play function that will just tell the video to play. Okay, so we're saying with my video, we want to bind to the ended event, and anytime the video ends, we want the video to play. So pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and save that, and then go to Firefox, reload the page. I'll just jump ahead to the end, and it goes back to the beginning. Great, so we just looped it manually. I'll just go over to Chrome really quick to make sure it's still working there. Fast forward it. All right, and that went back to the beginning too. So great, now we have manually looped it, and we don't need the loop attribute, so it will work as expected in all the browsers. With that though, you should be able to loop your videos consistently when needed, and the exact same thing will work for audio. But again, with both video and audio, be careful with looping because in more cases than not, it could be a distraction or annoying for your users.